Speaking your truth is risky. You risk being ridiculed, judged, rejected. You may well lose the love of some people. You might even lose some people as those relationships have to end as you start to live more authentically. Apparently, you also risk being shot in the neck if you speak your truth. But regardless, it is genuinely a risky endeavor to live boldly, authentically, and speaking your truth. Most of the people we work with have a very understandable fear of this very thing, and especially of losing the love of others and of pushing people away and of relationships having to change as a result of them living authentically, or even ending as a result of them living in that way. But on some level, they know that that's not sustainable, or they get to a place where they can't imagine having to live their entire life changing what their truth is, modifying the way they share it so that it fits the other person's requirements just so, or repressing what their truth is, or even worse, gaslighting themselves about what's true for them, moving the goalposts on what their boundaries are, going back on their own word. Oh, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe, I guess it's okay. Yeah, no, it's fine. No, I mean, I thought that was a no for me, but actually I'm okay with it. And they get to a point where that becomes the idea of having to do that for the rest of their lives in order to keep people around becomes extremely painful. And this is the tipping point. It's when the fear of self-abandonment becomes bigger than the fear of being abandoned. I'll say that again. The tipping point comes when your fear of coming out of alignment with yourself, of losing yourself, is scarier than the fear of losing somebody. When the fear of self-abandoning through people pleasing and all of this stuff is scarier than the fear of being rejected or abandoned by somebody else. And this is a very powerful place to be, because here's what happens. Most of the time, when that tipping point is honored and that person starts to live more boldly, more authentically, because it's just too painful to live any other way anymore after decades of losing yourself and people pleasing, 9 times out of 10, their relationships improve. It goes one of 3 ways. When the people who genuinely love you and want the best for you and have always rooted for you and the best version of you to come through, those people, you'll feel an immediate positive response. You'll feel an immediate celebration of the new you. Secondly, the second thing that can happen is sometimes people need a minute to catch up because they're not used to this version of you. They were used to this smaller version, this quieter version, this meeker version of you, meeker and weaker. And as you start to show up differently, and not least of all because sometimes when you start living in a different way, it can come out a little bit, uncalibrated at first, and they need a minute to adjust. They're like, whoa, Who's this? And sometimes they might need to change an aspect of themselves, which, you know, is not easy, right? Because it might be that they've been in this relationship with you for however long, they're used to this version of you, and, you know, it might come to light that actually they've been kind of controlling. They've been, you know, unconsciously taking advantage of your softness, let's say. And so as you change, they have to change as well. And, you know, we have to give people the grace to take the time they need to make that adjustment, right? And it might be a little rocky. There might be a minute there where they're like, whoa, what the fuck's going on? And for a minute, you'll be like, oh my God, this person's, you know, gonna leave me, or this relationship is changing. And look, change is scary. Change is scary. And the third thing that can happen, well, just to go back to that real quick, is once you move through that rocky patch, then they come into this place of actually, you know, they can, you will feel their respect and their love, and you'll feel seen by them. Why? Because you are showing up fully. People can't see what you don't show them. People can't respect what you hide from them and hide from yourself. So again, 9 times out of 10, you move through that adjustment period, and you have a way better relationship as a result. And this is, you know, maybe with a mother, a brother, colleague, husband, friends, whoever, sisters. And here's the truth. There's a third thing that can happen. And that is, some people never adjust. Because what comes to light as you start to show up fully, the light that you shine reveals the truth. And it might be an uncomfortable truth for both of you, which is, it turns out that this person actually needed you to self-abandon the whole time in order for that relationship to exist. And as you are no longer willing to do that, they are no longer willing to be in that relationship. And it transpires that that person never really wanted the best for you to begin with. That can happen. Thankfully, that's quite rare. And also, thankfully, it's not a bad thing. Because as painful as that transition period will be, or the ending of that relationship, and I'm not going to pretend that you'll be in some place of like, oh yeah, well, fuck them. I don't need them anyway. You know, I do not subscribe to that flavor of self-development. So it will be painful, and you will need to mourn the end of that relationship. But here's what's probably difficult for you to relate to based on where you might be at right now, which is when you get to that place that you have the tools and the support and guidance to live authentically, boldly, and shine your light in your life and into the world, the ending of that relationship will feel completely different to how you might think it would feel right now. Does that make sense? Because if you're in the place of, you might be somewhat willing to abandon yourself in order to keep people around, right? So that smaller part of you, oh my God, it's terrified of that outcome. But that's not the version of you that you will be in that would bring about the end of that relationship, right? You will literally be a different you. So your emotional response to the end of that relationship will be completely different, because you will be a completely different person. And it's a hard thing to sell to people, because it's hard to believe based on where you're at. And I get it. But I'll ask you to please believe me when I say that when those relationships that needed you to be a small, meek, disempowered, self-abandoning, people-pleasing version of you comes to an end, it will feel like growth. It will feel like, not like you've lost something other than something that was no longer serving you, like shedding a skin, but it will feel like you've gained something. It will feel like you've gained a freedom from a contract, being the relationship, that you didn't even sort of realize you'd signed up for. And the contract states that you have to literally be somebody who you're not in order to be in that agreement. That's an agreement that you should want to tear up and throw away. So, again, that you might lose somebody, that you might lose someone's love, you might even lose their respect from their distorted version of what's true. I mean, I find it's rare. But the tipping point comes when the idea of being in those relationships is the most painful thing, and it's more painful than the fear of losing that kind of relationship. And just to bring this into relationships, as in intimate relationships specifically, what I can tell you as a man who has been in several relationships in the past with women who constantly self-abandoned, who were willing to abandon themselves in order to not be abandoned by me in my unhealed state of where I was at. What I can tell you upon reflection is what would have been extremely transformative in some of those relationships really had to end. But I can think of examples where that woman being basically more honest is the blunt way to put it. More honest about her boundaries, her desires, having that connection to herself, an embodied relationship with her truth, where she can feel what is a yes and what is a no, and she will honor that above all else. That would be extremely helpful to me as a man, and it's what we see all the time with our clients, is when these women start to live in this way, most of the time, again, there might be a little adjustment period, but a lot of the time, that man just instantly starts responding differently to her because now she's showing up fully, and he actually has all of her there with which to relate to. Does that make sense? And this is one of the most powerful, useful, helpful things for me in relationship with Beth, is she is so connected to the truth in her body specifically, not like, oh, what's my truth? Oh, you know, you've heard me speak about this before, but she's so connected to the truth in her body that I don't have to worry about her abandoning herself and later down the road, me ending up in a situation where she's pissed off at me or there's resentment towards me because I've just been going along with something. I can't read her fucking mind, right? And lo and behold, it turns out she's been saying yes the whole time to something that was really a no. And then fast forward 6 months, a year, years or whatever, it turns out, you know, that was the case. And now I'm the bad guy. And this is the case of, for many of you in relationship, this is the harsh truth about the situation that your husbands are in or your partners, is they don't even know that you are saying yes to something that's a no. And they are constantly being made the bad guy for not reading your mind, for not honoring your boundaries for you, right? And there's this resentment towards them and all this stuff. And look, most of this is unconscious and below the surface. But yeah, it's a nightmare. The truth is, and you know, I'm going around the houses here a little bit, but what's also true is that the people pleaser is a danger to you. If you have a people pleaser in your life, if you have someone who is willing to abandon themselves rather than speak the truth to you, you are, if not already, it is only a matter of time before you are the bad guy in that person's mind. That you become the object of their resentment. Really, they're pissed off at themselves for not being able to speak their truth, and maybe you can relate to that. But on the surface, most people, what they do is when something feels bad, is they look outside themselves. Whose fault is it? It's that one. It's that person who I'm saying yes to, even though it's really a no, and they're not reading my mind, and I really resent them for that, right? You don't want to be that person, but we've all been there. So anyway, look, there's a lot that I've said here. I said a lot more in Beth and I's recent boundary workshop, and we have the recording for that. It was a 2-hour workshop. It was awesome. It was very interactive. We had women on there sharing their experiences of where they're at, and also quite a few women who were on the other side, who are no longer willing to abandon themselves, sharing their experience of what life looks like after that tipping point. So I'd love to give you the recording to this. Let me know if you want it. I'll put it down in the comments for you. And yeah, one thing to note, that due to storage space on our Zoom account, these recordings, we have to delete them eventually, because as we continue to do calls every single week for the women, you know, in our community and stuff and in our programs. So it's probably about a week before we delete this. So I would kindly nudge you to watch it sooner rather than later. But I think you will get, if you liked what I've said today, if it resonates, if it's interesting or intriguing, you are going to absolutely love it, and I would love to share it with you. So yeah, let me know in the comments and I'll give it to you. All right. Take care, everybody.